Shield Blocks, ITER India, Institute for Plasma Research, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Presently working as the project manager of Vacuum Vessel Involved Shielding Blocks and Head Design Office, ITER India. He has been contributing in different capacity to world's second largest project called ITER since India's participation in the project from 2006. As head of design office since 2009, enabled synchronous data exchange with all the seven countries in the ITER project. Further, India was the second country after USA to establish the live data exchange for synchronous design development. Additionally, working as configuration control in charge of ITER from India since 2010. Graduated in mechanical engineering from Karnataka University, Dharwad in 2000 and joined ITR in the technical training program in 2001 and MS in fusion technology from HBNI, Mumbai. Working in the area of design development and qualification of diagnostics systems from conceptual level for SST1 and ITER Tomax. Major ones are far infrared system developed for SST1, which houses more than 500 optical components and is seismically isolated. Further, contributed in the design qualification of port plugs for ITER in seismic, thermal, and hydraulic domains. In process, developed many cost-effective precision position controlling systems for diagnostic systems. He is involved in the design and manufacturing of ITER systems like cooling water systems, cryostat, in-wall shielding blocks, and port plug. So, with this brief introduction, uh, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce today's resource person. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your introduction, giving the introduction about Mr. Srishal Patsalgi, sir. Now, I request Mr. Srishal Patsalgi, sir, to take over the talk. Srishal, sir, over to you. You can share the content.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for taking this effort and ensuring that even in the lockdown situation, we could contribute to the students. And above all, I would like to thank my sincerely, thanks sincerely to Galgali, Dr. Galgali sir. He was the one who was introduced me to in SPIZ. Thank you, and I'll start with my presentation. So, to start with, uh, the topic which I have chosen, although there are different technological challenges that I'm going to discuss with the students, not with the intention that they would accept everything and understand everything, but only to expose them to the complexities which are there in the real world, and especially in the challenging project like ITER, which is one of the second biggest international research project in the history of mankind. So here, the topic which I have set in for today's discussion is coexistence of extreme limits of engineering. So why I took this is normally every students at their college level in study purpose, they will focus on certain limit and move ahead with study of that subject. However, in reality, we come across not only interfacing of many of the extreme limits, any of the limits, but there are extreme limits as well. So, to start with, just to address the students, I would like to put one point. Mind has finite limit and infinite power. All the minds are ignited to push the limit till infinite. So it is for the ignited minds that the students are weak, and they should think always that there is no limit to the mind. They can stretch it to the limit of infinite. So with this, we will start with content of the talk briefly, although I'll take many images from our activity, but the core idea to convey is, I'll just give idea about what is fusion technology, introduction to tokamak and international project, design and development of systems, what is the concept and how we have employed that into the technology here. And in that, the technological challenges are high temperature, low temperature, superconductors, structural and seismic loads, regulatory compliances of different countries, design qualification taking into account of all these above complexities are what we are going to touch with different applications basically. Of course, overview, not in depth. Structural integration of many of these complex systems, and differential expansion, online design development are some of the integration aspects. And in terms of complexities, there is a lot of scope for research also that we will briefly touch while talking each of the subject, and further qualification for these complexes. Then the conclusion includes high temperature material and research in that field, efficient heat removal techniques for high heat flux, and application of plasma in routine life. So plasma is not only looking for the power generation eventually, but we are actually at the moment using that to the daily life also. So that is what we can touch. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, what is fusion technology is all about? It is actually a thermonuclear reaction. It is basically a chemical reaction at elevated temperature. Basically, if you see hydrogen combining, that forms into helium, and in a process it generates energy. Why it generates energy is, if you add up the mass of reactants and compare it with mass of products, then you will find there is mass loss, and that mass loss converts into energy as per Einstein equation equal to mc square, which is very well known to everyone. So this is what happens actually in the stars. But how stars handle this? Because this to happen, we need millions of degrees Celsius temperature and very high density. So these two are the prerequisite for this reaction to take place. So in the sun, how that mighty power has generated is little still unknown fact, but has very huge, tremendous amount of gravity over there, and very, very high temperature of millions of degrees Celsius. That resulting a continuous sustained fusion reaction at the sun, and thereby we all are getting that energy for our daily life. So if just to add some more information regarding that, there is lot of importance to sun at the center of our solar system, which has gravitational field actually, which is very high. Sun is a source of energy for life on Earth. These rays actually comes to us in terms of particles or photons. Of course, that theory is dual theory exists there. You must all of you are already studied in the physics. So this intensely heated surface travels through vacuum space and eventually reaches Earth's surface. So this reaction is what is the reason for energy generation at sun. And same way we would like to generate. This is actually very huge energy as we studied. So This requires special conditions that extremely, as I said, high energy, which is in terms of temperature, and high density. Thus, you can find that internal temperature of the sun is about 15 million Kelvin, which is highly conducive for the fusion reaction along with high density. Hence, we are thankful to God that we are getting uninterrupted power on daily basis. So now, with that brief introduction, what is the fusion, how it happens, where it happens at the moment, and mankind, as advanced 7 countries basically, have involved into this research program wherein we would like to have that reaction, fusion reaction, on Earth. So this machine which you see is one which is very very big. You may not find a scale here, but it is about 30-meter in height and 30-meter in diameter. So we see each of the components and then study the complexities involved in the subsequent slides. So this is an international project which is called, in principle, originally it was called as International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, that ITER, but later on, with some regulatory compliance, it is being called as ITER is the way to energy basically. So this is mainly being handled at a central team in France, and 7 countries are the nodal agencies, and ITER India is the Indian domestic agency committed to deliver 10% of the total components, both in design and manufacturing, to that project. Eventually, that will be commissioned at ITER France. Now, ITER India is responsible for delivery of the following systems, that 10% if I subdivide. There is one big system called Cryostat, we briefly see that, and it involves shielding blocks system, which is what I am heading as a project manager. And there is another system called cooling water system, cryogenic systems, ion cyclotron, radio frequency heating system, electron cyclotron heating, radio frequency heating systems, diagnostic neutral beam system. So these are totally 9 packages that have been divided out of that 10% contribution India is supposed to deliver to Europe, France. Now, let us go to the ITER role, how this is being planned and what are the major aspects involved in it. India's contribution to ITER includes 9 in-kind packages that I said. Each package has to be delivered, involve development of material, machining technologies, and quality to meet the stringent nuclear safety norms in terms of design, qualification, etc. For the French regulatory board, which is in principle, if you talk in India, it is AERB, and in French, European, that is IAEA agency. So the systems to be designed, manufactured, and to be operated are of the nature of ultra high vacuum temperature, very low temperature of the order of 4 to 6 degree Kelvin, and high temperature of the order of 1000 Kelvin. This is for the machine component which are experiencing, but the plasma will be at about million degree Kelvin. The systems are designed to ensure integration with the systems developed by remaining 6 countries. This is important because they are independently developing and we are also independently developing. Then we need to ensure that there won't be any problem when we integrate, because all these systems are of first of kind and complex in nature. So the convention, to start with, further how the systems are being developed, just to give view of normal design development procedure. Normally what we do is identify the functional requirements, develop the concept to meet those requirements, and when we develop to the certain maturity, which is called preliminary design, to ensure functionality, and in final design, it is to qualify system for sufficiency of life. So if you say for meeting those requirements, you have to ensure 10-year, 5-year, whatever is life for the component. So that's what we do. And along with that, we have to see manufacturing readiness review, which is to ensure manufacturability of those design. Otherwise, again, we have to revisit the design. This is a sequence. And then manufacturing, inspection, installation, commissioning, subsequently operation as per the design guidelines and manuals. So this is how the conventional design has to follow, which is known just for a continuity purpose I have included. Now, just to brief major systems with image here. Why? Because when we talk certain name in the subsequent slides, we need to get certain view perception about that system. For example, this cryostat left-hand top, which is about 29 meter height and 28 meter in dia. This is being developed by India. We will talk that slightly later in the slide. Then we have thermal sealed, that is inside component, vacuum vessel, inside which we have IWS blocks, in vessel coils, blankets. These are very, very sensitive systems, nuclear grade material, precision machining to ensure eventually this complex system is assembled over there. And apart from that, these are structural, and apart from that, we need to have certain central magnetic systems. They are central solenoid, toroidal field coil, colloidal field coil, central correction coil. So these are magnetic system. Why we need magnetic system? I'll just briefly introduce that. I said the plasma is we used to be at millions of degrees Celsius. At millions of degrees Celsius, no material on Earth will maintain its structural integrity. So it will melt away. In fact, it will evaporate away. So to prevent that and hold the plasma for the fusion reaction, there is no material on Earth in principle. So what has been made is, in this machine, there have been magnetic coils which can generate a magnetic field up to of the order of 12 Tesla. So which is, you can check, you can feel that Earth magnetic field is in terms of 10 to the power of minus 6 Tesla or something like that. So this is 10 Tesla, which has to hold this plasma being a charged particle, proton and electrons. They will get confined to the magnetic field in this central portion. So they move in the cavity which is shown here in a helical fashion until they collide and form a fusion reaction. So that is how this technology needs huge magnetic coils to produce very precision magnetic field to control the charged particle called plasma. Now, coming to this is about all introduction of the machine, introduction about ITER India, and technological challenges are mainly, as we briefed in the title, high temperature components in the tokamak, which are named as divertor made up of tungsten dome, blanket models, and low temperature components called superconducting conductor coils, cryogenic systems to produce the low temperature. Low temperature, when I speak in terms of this, we need to remember in mind, it's about minus 268 degrees Celsius. That is what we call as a cryogenics temperature. And why we need that is, we need superconducting magnets. And superconducting magnets are magnetic coil which have zero resistance to electricity. And that zero resistance can be achieved only if we reach a cryogenics temperature which is minus 280 degrees Celsius, or normally we call it as 4.5 to 6 Kelvin range. So that is where the systems are supposed to operate, and that is where the complexities are involved. And when in terms of high temperature, it is about thousands of degrees Celsius. So these two are actually interfacing in this machine. a component having this temperature and component having high temperature. Both are actually in interface with each other. And above all, to shield them from environment, there will be big system called cryostat, which is world's biggest vacuum chamber as on date. The systems to be developed needs to be qualified for structural, seismic loads, and even load combinations, including dead weights, and regulatory compliance. That is possible only when we implement codes like PED, ESPN, ASME, RCCMR, etc., so that we can get the regulatory approval for design and manufacturing of those systems. So these are the stringent challenges on top of huge magnitude of the machine with different systems interfacing. So just to brief how this is manufactured, this cryostat is being manufactured at L&T Hazira, and as I stated earlier, it is about roughly 29-meter height and 28-meter in dia. So this system itself weighs about 4,000 tons and is made up of 316 LN stainless steel grade material, and almost all of its manufacturing is completed. These will be most of it is delivered to France at the moment, and eventually it will be assembled. So if we see its major features, it has roughly 16,000 meter cube of volume, which will be maintained at 10 to the power of -6 star. So which is very, very low. It's almost equal to zero, you can say, in terms of calculating with reference to atmospheric pressure. So this cryostat system weighs about 3,850 tons, and one system itself to be handled in the assembly using specialized crane is about 1,250 tons. So this is what is the complexity, and it is being manufactured and assembled there. Why this is required is, we will see this system actually has to get displacement feature of 30 millimeter plus or minus from the assembly condition to operational condition. And that is a beauty that the designer has to incorporate into the system, which has been done and is manufactured. Now going to the cryogenic system. This cryogenic system, which I stated, if we see here, it is distributing cryogen system to all the magnetic coils. One of that coil has been shown here, that is CF gray colored one. And remaining plant distribution, they control the variation in the temperature. All this will happen at the range of 4.5 Kelvin, which is roughly about -268 degrees Celsius. You imagine if we have to design any component there, component gets brittled and there will be crack and there will be lot of contraction at that low temperature. And the length of these line from the cryo plant to the distribution area, it is about 7 kilometer. So that is where the complexity of this system. So this is extensively used in ITER to create and maintain low temperature, as discussed while ago. And it will be supplied for the magnetic, and eventually vacuum pumps also use some portion of this. And ITER magnet will be cooled with supercritical helium, which is 4 Kelvin, about -269 degrees Celsius, in order to operate at high magnetic field, because we need to have high magnetic field, which is possible with high current. And if we feed high current, if resistance is there, it will get burnout. So we are making zero resistance in the conductor. That's why we call it a superconductor, and that is possible only by this 4 Kelvin temperature helium, liquid helium. Now, if we maintain a temperature difference of -269 with atmospheric, which is at 30 degrees Celsius, delta T will be very, very high, and eventually heat load will be very high. So additionally, in this, the concept used is intermediate shielding, that is called thermal shield, which will operate at 80 Kelvin, and 80 Kelvin gaseous flow will be there. So this will actually behave as a shield. If we see in case of normal calculation, when we do radiation calculation, when we introduce cylinder in cylinder and then calculate the heat transfer, suddenly radiation heat transfer falls down by half roughly. So here the logic is that only basically we maintain intermediate level at 80 Kelvin. So eventually the load will be very, very low from atmosphere. And in a process, we have very sensitive, complex design, which I don't go into detail because just we need to understand what complexities are there. And that is why I'm just put this here. There is a cryo plant, it is a representative, and the magnet and cryo pump systems here. So intermediate, we have many JT valves, evaporated gaseous helium, cold circular, which will actually circulate everywhere, cold compressor. So these are all sensitive systems operating at different temperature and not manufactured at one industry. Some components are manufactured in Japan, some components are manufactured in Europe, and most of the cryo distribution manufactured in India here, from design to manufacturing. One of the company which is predominant manufacturer is Inox India Limited and Linde. So those are two cryogenic system manufacturer. So when we calculate or think about any material, this complexity, if we think for the students, I feel the calculation that they will be doing from the book, they will feel very small. And if they feel very small, then they will be very confident and it will be easy for them to understand. So for that perspective, I'm just emphasizing that what are the criticalities in the real complex systems. Now, just to give the overview, which we have anyway discussed, I'll skip it quickly. So basically, the only magnet are highlighted here. So one which is gray color is a TF coil, and another is a central solenoid in the middle, which you see. And in fact, there are some radial poloidal coils also. So these are all fed with a cryogenics temperature. These have to be put on the flexible support structure. If you see the structure below and the height of the person, indicative height here shown, and these have to displace by 30 millimeter plus or minus after assembly and commissioning, because when we cool it to 4 degrees Celsius, such a big system thermally gets contracted, and if you make a rigid fixing there, then it will crack and break away, and it doesn't function actually. So those are the kind of criticalities, and these magnets produce around 11.8 Tesla magnetic field. Each of these systems, they are 9. Each of they weigh about 360 ton superconducting coil basically. So that is how these systems are complex in nature. Now coming to the vacuum vessel, why vacuum vessel? This vacuum vessel is now the system inside which the plasma is to be generated, and that plasma will have to have a fusion reaction and produce energy, which is normally 10 times whatever power we give. So that is what is the aim of this. And the raw material eventually is a deuterium, which is abundantly found in seawater, and along with that we can use tritium, which is normally lithium can be braided into tritium. So tritium and deuterium are the reactants in this machine. So this magnitude of structure, only one portion of that 40 degree has been shown, just to do the detail, is being manufactured at Europe, and it is a double wall system. In between that, we have components called involved shielding blocks and water that will be assembled, and those components are being manufactured in India. That is what I'm heading, and part of it is being manufactured at L&T Hazira again, and some part of it is being manufactured at Bangalore Auserla Technology. So now coming to details of involved seal, what it is included. It is basically a nuclear grade stainless steel material, and the total weight of the material is about 3,000 ton. Very costly material. Material is itself is about 400 crore plus costly, and manufacturing is different apart from that. And this involves the precision manufacturing operations like water jet cutting. So imagine like unconventional method. This is fully employed here. The water jet is being used to cut all the big plates into small plates here, and then CNC machining is used to ensure the final precision machining of each of the components. And then these are cleaned using pickling and passivation, which is actually chemical etching, acidic etching method, to ensure there are no dirt, nothing is left over the surface, because these components are sensitive. Cleanliness is very important there. And how we achieve the guarantee of functionality, there are automated machines. We use a CMM model fed into that 3D model. With that, the manufactured components will be measured with ferro arm. So eventually, that will produce a report automatically and ensures that every dimension is checked carefully, and a report is checked, and then it is approved for dispatch, packing and dispatch. So that is how this is being manufactured. And about if you see at the present, so these are the blocks at the right bottom column, bottom image, that is showing these blocks kept in machined condition, waiting for packing. And after packing, these will be dispatched to Korea and Europe, where they will be eventually assembled inside the vacuum vessel. So this was a little older stage. We are about to complete the manufacturing in about 3 to 4 months from now. So that is the progress of Indian IWS manufacturing. So these are very, very sensitive component, precision machining, and too many systems, every system having different dimension. And the special feature are, as I said, about 55% of it is metal inside the double wall of vessel, and 30% is water. And there are some special grade material like 430 grade material, which is to absorb some amount of ripple also. But the main function of these blocks are to ensure shielding of the neutron generated in the fusion reactor. So these boron grade steel plates are used here, and those boron content in the steel has very high absorbability of for neutron. So it absorbs the neutrons and eventually prevents neutron going outside. So that is one of the important thing here. So now coming to the high temperature components, this is what I talked between the vacuum vessel. Inside the vacuum vessel, there will be another about 600 to 400 mm thick components needs to be put in before actually heat a neutron or reaching involved shielding. And these are also highly borated and sophisticated materials. So I'm not supposed to declare everything, but I'm just sharing the images which are openly available. So these are called blanket model. These are why called blanket model, because they cover the plasma like a blanket, and they are very, very thick material. Inside that, very gun drilled precision cooling channels are made, and those channels are to remove a very huge amount of heat flux generated from the plasma reaction. So that is about the functionality of a blanket model, and they get interfaced with the vacuum vessel. Just to see how they are handled at the assembly, it will be, each of these model will be about 4 ton in weight. They are roughly around 400 in number. They will be assembled remotely. No personal access will be provided later because it is all activated, nuclear activated. So there will be remote handling of that. The sophisticated remote handling systems designed to ensure they are remotely assembled. And one of the system another system that India is designing, manufacturing, which I have done a lot of design calculations, is a port plug. So this port plug is basically for studying purpose of the plasma. We need to put in many diagnostics, but those diagnostics activity will be done by other people. But this whole mechanical structure, which is about 26 ton, which is to be assembled in the vacuum vessel to face the plasma front end. This is diagnostic first wall, which will be focusing to the plasma, which is at millions of degrees Celsius. And flux coming on this is up to 1 megawatt to 3 megawatt per square meter. So that is a huge flux coming. So unless a specialized cooling design is maintained here, cooling layout is planned, it will be actually burning out the surface. So that is very, very important to ensure the effective cooling design is made. And inside this wall also there are gun drilled holes through which coolant water will be continuously flowing. So this is also in the manufacturing stage, and this contract was won by European company for the manufacturing. Now the another big system which is very, very heavier, very complex, and experiencing heat flux to the order of 2 to 10 megawatt. Why I'm emphasizing only this number is when students do calculation with certain heat flux boundary condition, they can check whenever they find the problem, they will be all of very small value. And this value, when you think of 10 megawatt, before actually the heat which is falling on the surface going inside until to the cooling layout, actually it burns out the surface of the surface on which it falls actually. This is because the thermal resistivity of certain thickness is needed, because you have to have high pressurized cooling water flowing to remove heat. And if it is high pressurized, the surface which is exposed inside the tokamak is ultra high vacuum, so it is zero pressure in principle. Now you need to have certain thickness, and that thickness itself is so high that it will actually will not allow heat to flow inside up to cooling water, and before that it actually burns out the surface outside. Then what is made here? What is the option to resolve that problem? Students can dig out and study. I'll just mention the word called hypervapotron technology. And this hypervapotron technology is actually a technology which ensures removal of heat to the order of 10 megawatt per meter square. I'll briefly introduce that so that study can be done later. The intent of showing these details are only the complexities, what order of magnitude of flux is there, and how that is to be handled. And of course, these are different cassettes will be introduced here as highlighted in the machine here below at the bottom portion. Only at the bottom portion you will find very high flux, and in remaining area it will okay. Next slide, please. Rajendra sir, I think you have taken control. Hello.
Hello, sir.
You have taken control, right?
No, sir. No, control is with you only, sir.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the marker pen is being highlighted, sir. I think we need to cancel that one and.
Okay. Where to cancel? I have not used this application.
So just press escape and click on the slides.
You can escape, sir. You use the escape button.
I'm doing that, but it is not working. Sir, can I check if control is with you, because it requested me to give the control to you.
Okay, you can share once again, sir.
Okay.
I'll do one thing.
Mouse is there, but control of the slide is gone now.
One second.
Okay, now it is okay.
Okay, yeah.
So just to highlight what is that hypervapotron, which is interesting when students with a good interest in the thermal heat transfer and things like that. What actually happens is hypervapotron means if you allow the flow of water here, if you see the bottom image, assume that there is a grooves made, and in that groove you allow the water to flow at a good high pressure, and then huge flux is applied at the bottom surface. So here what happens is this huge flux at the bottom of this grooves suddenly converts water into steam, and bubbles will form. And when the bubbles form, that bubbles will be flushed away by the water flowing above. And then here what happens, not only convective, not only sensible heating, but also there will be latent heat transfer suddenly to the small mass of water which is nearby that. Thereby, actually it takes away huge amount of heat suddenly. So this is only an advanced approach at present one can use for removing heat transfer of the order of 10 to 20 megawatt. But if you want higher than this, not 20 to 20 is a little difficult, that is very complex, and it is called, then we make pulsing heat flux. So not continuous mode. If you go to the 20 megawatt, you will have to do it in a pulsed mode. Some portion on, some portion of the duration it will be off. That way we have to work out. So normally this hypervapotron is quite interesting. Student can study this, and this is what has been employed for all high heat flux spacing component in the machine. Now coming to the overview of what we discussed so far. The systems to be designed, manufactured and assembled at room temperature. These so far what we discussed the complexities. And it has to be functional at extreme limits of the coldness and temperature while in operation. So this is what is the constraint. We are designing, commissioning at room temperature, and a huge system when temperature is lower or higher, it is either going to contract or expand respectively. And that needs to be taken care. Apart from that, when the expansion and expansion and contraction happens at both the condition, they will actually, along with that, they will get change their strength. At elevated temperature, thermal strength of the material will be low, whereas at the lower temperature, it will actually become brittle. And if it becomes brittle, it loses its stiffness and there is a chance of failure. So we cannot allow this contraction without ensuring that the contraction will be taken care by some of the flexible joints as and when it gets contracted, because this will be near the absolute zero, which is about 0.5 Kelvin. If it is 0 Kelvin, then that's the absolute, which is never achievable. So that is one of the major complication, which is the extreme limit that students has to take away in their mind. And then it is heavy engineering component, and they have to accommodate 30 plus or minus displacement, although the systems are of 30 meter in height. And these are the low temperature, high temperature system in combination, how to accommodate. And the whole system weight, all component integrated system weight is about 40,000 ton. And that is where that system needs to be having a flexibility to move. Otherwise, it will not function at the operating range. So this is what is the extreme limit again, because that 4.5 Kelvin is also their magnetic system, which is interfacing with this elevated temperature component. So the important thing here is always not fixing firmly to ensure the functionality or stability of a system. Stability of system can be achieved by giving some flexibility also. So that is what has been the concept here. And this is to be designed qualified for a complex load cases, including seismic load, which is expected in more than 500 years, or which has occurred in more than last 500 years. For that kind of magnitude of seismic condition, these system needs to be stable. So that is a kind of complexity. And above all, the manufacturing, testing to be compliant with international quality standards and meeting the nuclear regulatory requirement. So these are very stringent, but everything, every dimension measurement, one needs to maintain the record of that component. Inspector needs to check it, sign it, and that records must be traceable for 30 years of operation life of the machine. And that record is traceable. Eventually, any failure happens on any component, those records will be used, and based on that, it will be traced out as to who was faulty and due to which the machine has failed. So that kind of traceability is needed for this. So in all nuclear installments, this is actually more or less requirement. So this material should have a capacity to withstand a high neutron load. So this aspect, although I did not say, I'll just brief here. When neutrons hit the material, even if it is stainless steel material, that neutron will convert the material itself. And due to that conversion, the strength of material falls down. So this research, there is material research also going on to withstand high neutron load also. So this is one of the another extreme research oriented topics that many people can take interest on. And above all, if we need to harness the thermal energy to convert it into electrical energy, we need to ensure that we are able to take out that heat which is at nuclear activated condition and convert that into steam. Using that heat, we need to produce steam and then convert power as per conventional reactors, power thermal stations. So that is the second complexity that has not been checked and that will not be implemented. That power conversion will not be implemented in this. And this ITER will only ensure, once commissioned and operated, that whether the fusion is possible or not to the power generation scale. So that is what will be established. Apart from that, so what are the present use of plasma to the public? Of course, energy is a long-term goal, and ITER validation itself will take another 10 years or so. So how is all this research being exploited or used in different conditions? So this is very special kind of material, which is fourth state of matter, that's plasma, because it coexists with electrons, negative, and ions, positive charge, because of high energy. And this can be used in different applications. And normally we can see it in even fluorescent lights also. What we see is actually a plasma. So this can be used to treat and chemically modify the surfaces. So for this reason, normally this plasma is used to treat the surface to minimize contamination. In many cases, even it can be used for corona treatment. I'm not sure, but it needs to be established. Though the surface hardening of a gears kind of requirement, where you need toughness in the material, at the same time you need wear resistance on the surface. So if you want toughness, then material needs to be ductile, and if you have a ductile material, then wear and tear will be high. So that can be easily eliminated by surface treatment, so that it will only harden the surface of the components, not inside. The inside it will remain tough. So it is further established and almost at the final stage. For the cancer treatment, plasma is being used, and cancer shells will be killed to the level of 80%, and it does not kill any of the healthy cells. So it kills 80%. So it has not yet been implemented, because medical guideline says no treatment should kill more than 50% of the bad cells. If it kills more than a 50% of the cell, this may be catastrophic also in some times, assuming that it will kill healthy cells also. Although this plasma does not kill healthy cells, but it is still under trial with AIIMS, and it is not yet implemented in practical life. And it is also being used for the different type of skin diseases. It will quickly heal the skin diseases. And one of the important application that is being developed, that are being used, is at the moment plasma torch are developed. And those plasma torch, which is easily movable, small device will be there like a torch, and that plasma, if made to fall on the injuries or the cut injuries in the accidents and things like that, it will suddenly coagulate the blood on the surface, and it prevents the bleeding from the person who has met the accident. And eventually it ensures safety, because most of the death occur due to bleeding, lot of bleeding, before they are taken to the hospital. And if this device is kept or is made available to common people, wherever accident happens, they can simply treat and immediately stop bleeding. So that is one of the important application. And apart from that, the interesting thing is, a small shawl which normally people use can be used to withstand very low cold winter. How this is possible? By plasma treatment. If you treat that shawl with a plasma, of course that is not a burning plasma, it is a small low level plasma that I'm talking about, low energy plasma. And when you treat that, the fabric will be pressurized, and they will be made as a flat fabric, and those fabric get in contact with each other, and eventually there won't be any porosity for the coldness to enter inside. A simple light shawl that conventionally one can put on the shoulder can ensure preventing harsh cold climate to the people. So these are some of the few of the examples that I have highlighted here. So I come to conclusion. I think I have taken more than that what was given to me at hand. So quickly, almost all it has been done. Components with extreme limits needs to be integrated to meet the functionality. Advanced countries design independently are to be eventually assembled at one location with stringent tolerance to complexities. The compliance to international codes that we've spoken, and auxiliary products of ITER, that is ongoing advanced material development, manufacturing technology, and along with plasma application for many other treatments. And the high thermal strength material are must for harnessing fusion power eventually, if fusion is becoming successful after 30 years, after another 10 years of experiment. So deployment of plasma for both machine and medical purpose is already in place, like hardness production on the making the surface hardening, and in many of the biological applications like disease treatments and woolen treatments. So these are all the application. So this is all about my presentation, a talk on the complexities. I tried to make it simple and understandable eventually to the students. I don't know how effectively I could reach to the students, because I am not a professional speaker. So forgive me if there are any communication gaps, inconsistency, typo errors, and things like that. I tried to tried to convey the content as simple as possible. So that's it from my side. So thank you, and we can open for the discussion, sir. If
Yes. Thank you, sir. And of course, you are very precision and to the point, sir, because we have started dot 4:32 and you have ended up at 5:32. So there is absolutely a very precision, like how we can understand how you people design the precision components. And you have talked about almost you have shown us extreme limits, like you have shown about the cryogenics, which is operating at a minus 268 degrees Celsius, and to the plasma heat, which is at a billion degrees of Celsius, and also how to control the flux a heat flux using a hyper Veptron technology. Hope our students will capture these contents and make them useful for their career. And also, you have shown us how the structure is how the structure design is maintained by having a magnetic technology for controlling the temperature, as well as the high temperature, as well as the low temperature. And of course, the machine itself is 4,000 tons, which is very large and needs a large efforts and very precision guys like you who can design such a things. So thank you for your wonderful session, sir. Absolutely, it will help our students further for their studies. And I request students, if they have any questions, they can raise. They can post through the chat, or if they are willing, you can yeah, ask me the access to talk. Over to the student. You can write questions over a chat. Sir, my question, like which are the softwares you are using for the design and the analysis of such structures?
okay, sir, we are using AutoCAD. We are using predominantly CATIA. AutoCAD for small applications because some of the manufacturers use AutoCAD, but
Okay.
the whole ITER data is kept in CATIA and is being developed in CATIA. And for all countries to, I actually wanted to touch that portion, but I thought it will take time. I did not touch that. CATIA along with PLM software, that is Enovia of this Dassault product only, that Enovia ensures the limited permission to the components that we are designing. We will get permission to modify only those components which we are designing, but we can definitely see the interfaces of all the systems which other countries are designing simultaneously. On daily basis, the design changed by other countries will be available immediately on the next day to us here. And whatever we change, that change is always again translated to other countries as well. So thereby, although we are sitting in 7 different countries, and in each of the 7 different countries, there are different manufacturers who are working at their premises only, but the design is taking place at only one location.
Okay,
And
sir.
this is I again why I just wanted to highlight this is one more application which can beat actually corona. So you be at your own isolated location, you do the design, but design can take place in an integrated fashion without any complexity that I may violate the interface aspects of other components, because you can see those components wherever you are. So that is a technology used for design purpose, and for the analysis purpose, we are predominantly using ANSYS. And apart from that, STADPro and other things for the flow pipe design and things like that we are using. So predominantly CATIA, ANSYS, and STADPro. These are the three major softwares, along with some other small support here and
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the student side? So if you don't have a questions, you can also chat if you have any questions, and we can take up these questions later also. You can talk to the sir in later stage also. So thank you for your wonderful words, sir, and the content was very good, and it was so nice that the whenever you were explaining, the pictures were moving just in front of me. So the explanation wise, it was beautiful to hear your voice, and thank you for your wonderful talk, sir.
Thank
Over
you,
to
sir.
Virana, sir. Sir. This one?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Now I owe Virana, sir. Please take over.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
hello, sir.
On behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, SG Balekandri Institute of Technology, Belagavi, I thank once again Mr. Srishal Padsalgi, a project manager involved with ITR EDA, for sparing his valuable time, and he came online and he was telling so in a fashion, it looks like he is teaching to the students. And basically, I heard he is started as a professor in some engineering college, and he went to the central government job later on, almost 21 years back. But sir, you have retained your whatever the teacher fashion till today. That is the most appreciable. And on behalf of our department, on behalf of our institute, I thank from our students. On behalf of, I thank all the people, and especially this all because of. Uh, I thank our management, our president, and our Swamijis on behalf of our department as well as the institute. I thank all the people who are indirectly supporting this program. And thank you, Professor Srishail, and I thank our principal, Dr. Siddhamappa, for supporting such kind of activities in the department as well as in the college. And it is on my behalf of I thank everybody who ever participated in this webinar. When we thought of different platforms, and we got the best resource persons, and they have delivered a nice lecture which was reaching all kind of the people. And even there are so many faculty members have joined from the different engineering colleges. There are so many industry people are joined. And friends, one more thing I want to tell you, this is going to be live on the YouTube, as well as by tomorrow morning. It will, by today evening, in fact, by today evening we'll put it in the YouTube, and the link will be shared to all of you. And the participants, whoever registered through the Google form, you will get a feedback form. Once you fill that feedback form, you will get back a e-certificate. You please reply to the your Google form, the email, then you will get the e-certificate. Till that, you can take care. Bye bye. Then from the department, I once again thank everyone. We have a team. Professor Muttanna, he is coordinating this program. I thank Professor Muttanna, Professor Sangappa, Professor Siranjeevi, Professor Anand, Kodar. They are all a part of this program, and they are behind the screen. They are monitoring all these activities. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to address the students and your management. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Sir. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you, Srisal, sir.